Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first Crafternoon session of the year. I would like to thank you all for joining us today. My name is William Carlson, and I'll be the host for today's program. I would like to introduce you to Weston. Please say hello.
Hi guys, I'm the Outreach and Community Coordinator here at the Museum of Antiquities. Today I'm just going to be moderating our chat, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our chat bar, and I will be able to relay them to Kevin, our Roman Centurion, when we get to our comment section. So just follow along, ask any questions you like, and I'll keep track of that. I'm going to hand it back off to William, and you guys will see me just a little bit later. So enjoy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Weston. And we would also like to say thank you to our very own Centurion, Kevin Hicks, for coming all the way from the Roman Empire to tell us about his life. Now, before we begin, I would like you all to take a quick look at your craft supplies. While Kevin tells his stories, you guys are going to be making your very own legionaries. So please take a look at your toilet paper tubes and the downloadable template from our Crafternoon Facebook event, seen here. Or you can also find this on our Ancient and Medieval Adventures Facebook page. I'll be painting my materials, and I'll also be using markers, but for the rest of you, you can use whatever tools you would like to, and you'll be coloring them in however you please. So to start with, before Kevin launches into his story, I would like you all to please color in the pieces of your Roman armor template. So that's these pieces on the page. For this, I'm going to be using markers while Kevin tells his story, but once again, feel free to use whatever you please. And then you're going to color your toilet paper roll in 3 different sections. I'm just going to mark them off very quickly here. You're going to be taking your toilet paper tube and very quickly coloring it in 3 distinct segments: your head, your torso, and your legs. This is going to be looking something like this when you're done. This is our Roman Centurion. So once again, you have your head, torso, and legs. You're just going to color them in like so. Finally, you guys are going to be coloring in your egg carton cup, this little piece here, however you like. This is going to be your Roman Centurion's helmet when we finish the craft this afternoon. So when it's done, you're just going to pop it right on top of your toilet paper tube like this. Yellow and gold are always a good choice, like our Roman Centurion has on his head there, Kevin. But we'll come back and finish this in the end. I'm almost done here, but remember, if you have any questions for Kevin during his stories, please ask them using the chat feature, which you'll be able to find on the left-hand side of your page. Now, without further ado, I am very pleased to present to you the Centurion from faraway lands and the defender of Rome, the one, the only, Kevin Hicks.
Hello, or should I say, Salve. They didn't have the word hello. The word hello is actually a modern word. It's for the telephone. They were salute, salve, if there was lots of people, salvete, if there was only one. Rome. Life of a Roman soldier, what must it have been like? Well, I used to be a real soldier, and I can tell you sometimes, being a soldier, it's tough. You marching and you're climbing, or when you're fighting, or it's raining, it's tough. But those Romans, they were quite something. Look at the armor I'm wearing, it works. This is called lorica, that's the word for armor. Lorica segmentata, this is segmented pieces of armor, like the segments of an orange, segments of armor. But there was another kind of armor. I'm going to reach down and pick it up for you. You might know this as chainmail. It's called lorica hamata. I like this, segmata. Segmentata. It actually fits me quite nicely. The helmet isn't too bad, but I've got this great big crest on the top. Now, a centurion has his crest going across. Everybody else goes front to back if they're an officer. The centurion needs to be seen in the battle. He's the only one with the transverse crest. Now I'm going to take my helmet off so I can come a bit closer. So the life of a Roman soldier. You join when you're 17, 18. 4 to 6 months basic training. Swimming, reading, writing, marching. Marching, some massive marches twice a week. 20 miles. Yeah, but a Roman mile is shorter than our modern miles. You will be taught how to fight, but your sword, the gladius, will be heavier than the real gladius. It's to build up your muscles. When you use your shield, your scutum, it's 2-3 times heavier, so you build up your muscles. When you throw a spear, it's heavier. The idea is to beef you up, make you strong, and also get you to work together. The Roman army, as armies should, operate as one. So every man moves accordingly. You're trained. And I've got a brilliant little model I'm going to show you now of how Roman soldiers could move together. You're going to love this. Ta-da! Different use for the pawns off 2 different, no, this is off 1 chess set. There they all are with their little Roman shields. But if you've got 5,000 men and you need them to move around together, they've got to be trained together. So, just in a simple formation, marching towards the enemy, no problems at all. But the enemy start to throw missiles at them, arrows, stones, spears. So the Romans simply build a house out of their shields. They can even put the shields round the sides to protect themselves. Typical, it's just fallen over. There you go. So on they go, making ground. They can still see through the gaps, but when they get close to the enemy, they can break that formation and they can go into a formation which is fantastic. It's called the cuneium, or the wedge. You can have several wedges like the teeth of a saw, or one giant wedge, and charge towards the enemy and punch through them. The Romans used this in 60 AD after the death of Christ, or ACE, after the Common Era, to break through the army of Boudicca in her rebellion in Britain, punching straight through, each soldier with his sword or his spear sticking out. And while this is going on, the soldiers on horses, the cavalry, are going around the outside. This is what it's all about, discipline. You must train your troops properly. You must have your soldiers fit, strong. They can read, they can write, they can see, their teeth are good. So there are no serious problems with them. Now, we know all about this because of one man. Vegetius wrote a book about the Roman army, and the book still survives, and we've now got it as a modern book, so we can learn about what Roman soldiers had to do to build roads, build bridges. How did they cross the river in the first place? Well, let's have a little look at some of the things that you can expect a Roman to carry. Now, I'm just going to bring this into view because I'm going to blow it out in a minute. It's a Roman lamp. The wick is right down. Let me see if I can just fetch that up a little bit. No, it's dropping down into the oil. And I've just blown it out. Would you believe that? So I'm going to bring it up and see if I can relight it, because this is very important. People don't realize that Roman soldiers in their tents could actually read. If they, I'm going to burn my fingers now. You're going to witness in a minute how I'm going to burn my fingers. So I'm going to put the lamp down. Right, let's start. Roman kit bag. Here we go. It's carried on a pole, but there are some things missing. These are my personal things in here. Rope, extra clothing, but some things that people don't realize that Roman soldiers had to carry with them. Saucepan. Container, totally sealed. This, not for wine or for water, this is for olive oil. Olive oil to cook with, to clean your armor, and to clean yourself with, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Here we have a very important thing. It goes on the back of your kit bag. It has extra clothing, extra supplies with it, even some food. A Roman frying pan. But the soldiers carried all of this with them, as well as their weapons. This is what made them quite something. You see, if we go back to the beginning of the Roman army, all of their kit went onto wagons. They took time, slow, on they went. And a general called Marius said, get the soldiers to carry most of their kit. Put it on their back, get them to figure it out. And the soldiers themselves figured out, put it on a pole, and then put your shield over your back, put your helmet down the front, lean in, and you can carry it. So the Roman army began to move quicker, build roads straight so the army can move all the way along them at a nice speed. So the Roman army carries its kit with them. Some of their personal equipment, though, you never see it. Now, do any of you know what this is for? This is a sponge on a stick. This is for washing. Water and vinegar, it's for washing your backside, your bottom. When you've had a poop, it's for washing you clean. They didn't have toilet paper, but they kept themselves clean. And if you were a naughty soldier, your job might be to clean out the latrines, clean out all of the sponges on a stick. Ugh. Now, you might be a clerk. You might have to take notes. And this is a wax tablet. So you can use a metal stilo there, and that can write into the wax. And when you've finished, these notes are no longer any good, but you want to reuse your notepad, you heat this up and then scrape it clean. And then you can start again the next day. It's like a MacBook, I suppose. It's a laptop from the Roman times. You can use it again and again. But if you want to send a letter, that's a different thing, isn't it? Because you've got to write actually on a piece of paper, but the Romans didn't have paper as we do. The way they used to write a letter was on very thin pieces of wood, almost like bark, but it is actually wood. This is the Roman alphabet. You can just about recognize some of the letters. Roman word. Hi, hello. That's what it says. And it was written with an ink pen that had a very, very fine nib. So you could be writing, you could be recording, you could be building a bridge. If you're going to do your 25 years in the army, you might draw a very short straw and end up in one place, boring for 25 years. Or you might go up to Germany, fight the Germanic tribes, or across to Britain, or be even luckier to go down into Jordan or Syria, where it's nice and warm weather. You could take one of these with you. Look, a spoon. Oh no, it's not. It's a knife. Oh, and it's a toothpick. Combination tools. In the modern times, they're Swiss Army knives, aren't they? They had lots of variations of these, some of them lovely. But even just an ordinary wooden spoon, the Romans would often carve them nicely and decorate them. It's personal. Here we have a comb. Some people might recognize this for getting little creepy crawlies out of your hair. But this isn't made of plastic. People think it's plastic. We've not had plastic for very long in history at all. This is made from animal horn. This is made from a bull's horn. All of the horn from cows, buffalo, they would use to make different things. And this particular one is a comb, and it works very well. All Roman soldiers, short hair, shaved. I've got a razor here. So that's your Roman razor. Yeah, keep yourself clean, keep yourself smart and tidy, then things won't live in your hair. Scapula, small eating knife. Every Roman soldier had one of these. It's his personal knife. You put your finger on the top, you press down, it will cut your bread, it will cut your cheese. This, very, very important. You can just tuck it in, tuck it away and get it out at any time you need to eat. But if you needed to go and have a shower, sorry, they didn't have the showers. If you wanted to go to be clean, it's half a day or maybe a full day at the baths. If you live in a town, wow, you're going to be so lucky because you could spend time in the baths. You could go for a swim in the swimming pool. You could go into the hot room, steaming into the hot pool, the caldarium that's called. Or then you could relax in the warm room, the tepidarium, and then go for a dip in the frigidarium where it's so cold. Fridge, that's where we get the word, isn't it? From fridge, frigidarium, so cold. And then when you're ready and you're fully relaxed, they even had a cafe in there so you could go and have something to eat, maybe a drop of wine or some fresh water. But when you're ready to actually become clean, they didn't have soap the same as we do. You will get olive oil that's been cleaned, possibly scented, and it will be rubbed into your body. Now you can do that yourself, or you can pay a few very small coins for a slave to rub the olive oil into you. Now, when Rome itself, the capital of the Roman Empire, was really at its height, there was something like 1 million people living in it. The danger was half of them were slaves, and people in Rome were constantly worried. Their armies were away, but in their capital city, half the people were slaves. What if they revolted? Because sometimes they did. But let's go back to the baths. So there you are, you're steaming now, you've got scented olive oil, you're sweating, but it's time for you to get out and clean up. So your slave comes along, or you do it yourself, a striggle. It's a curved piece, some of them were iron or bronze. It's got a groove down here, and what happens is you're sweating and the cold striggle scrapes all of the olive oil splat on the floor. I've actually tried this and it works. You feel so clean. Then you go for a nice refreshing swim. Oh, I might go into the steam room for a little while, and that's it. Go to the barbers, have your hair cut, nice shave. That's an interesting thing about the barber. He is called a tonsori, and you could go to the tonsori to have your head cut. But if you had an infection in your throat and your tonsils were all swelling up, you went to the tonsori and he will cut them out for you. We won't go any more into that because it's quite scary. Right, let's see if I found anything else on here. No, I can't relight me. Oh, I got something nice. I can't relight me lamp because it's gone out completely, but I can show you what it looks like. It's just ordinary clay and it has some nice gladiators on it, but unfortunately, as things do happen, I've lost the wick down on the inside. But here's something for you. If you've got your ears are all dirty, put a bit of wool round there. It's a cotton bud, but in the Roman times. Tweezers, ladies, fashion in Rome. Wow. Pluck your eyebrows. Take off the unnecessary hair. Pluck all the hair on your arms. Ugh, why'd you do that? And then this amazing little thing. See if you can see. It's just a sharp V of metal. And you trim your nails with it. It doesn't just trim them. If you turn it round, it cuts them and smooths them. Wow. I like this because I still use it now and again. Right, so those are some of the personal things that we have in our kit bag. You know, your frying pan, your saucepan, your little knives and things you look after yourself. Game of dice so you can play with your friends. But let's get back to being a soldier. The Roman army marched for mile after mile, and I'm going to show you what a Roman sandal actually looks like. These are caligae. They're open sandals. The Roman soldiers used to put garlic oil inside so that your feet stayed supple and nice. It's a bit of an antiseptic. Look at the bottom. Iron studs. So when these wear out, the soldiers themselves can replace them. I've got some replacement studs. Just tiny little studs there. You hammer them in. So you've got tread. But there was a sad thing happened with one Roman soldier. He was a centurion. And in front of the enemy, he slipped on the stone wearing these in Greece. And he was killed. But the Roman soldiers were asked, do you want to keep your caligae? Should we take the studs out? And the Roman soldier says, no, we're going to keep the caligae because they give us grip on the march and they become comfortable. When it's in the cold, the ice and the snow, they wear a different boot. It's totally enclosed, similar to the caligae, but it completely covers your foot and you can put grass and things inside to act as a little bit of protection against the cold. So now, back to being a soldier. This is a Roman legionary's helmet. No crest, just a simple helmet. They were made of iron. They're quite heavy, but if somebody's going to try and hit you on the head, you want something really good to protect you. You have a visor here, so if an axe or a sword chops into you, it protects the helmet. Yeah? So, here we have scutum, Roman shield. It's made of wood. Has an iron rim around the top. These are vital. But an interesting thing. As a centurion, I have my sword on the left. I can draw it quite quickly and quite easily. But if I was carrying into battle a large shield, I can't get my sword out. So the ordinary legionaries, and anybody who's got any sense, if they're going into battle with a large shield, put your sword on the right. So you can reverse your arm, bring your sword up from within your shield so that you're ready to face the enemy. Now, as well as the shield, as well as the gladius, as the sword is called, you might be lucky enough to have one of these. It's a knife, a dagger, Pugio. It's for fighting, not for cutting bread, but a most important weapon. I put a block of wood on this because it's a little bit sharp. This is a spear. Right. Pila. You throw it. Some people call these javelins, but that's from the French word, javelin. You throw it at the enemy. If the point goes through his shield, this whole thing is so heavy that he has to throw his shield away. If this goes into him, he's got to stop, even if it's only in his leg, because this is heavy. And then a great little trick. As soon as it hits you, the weight of it bends this bit. So the enemy, they can't pick them up and throw them back. Well, isn't that clever? Because if you think in a Roman legion, a Roman army, there are 5,000 men. Each one of them carries 2 of these. They carry them along their kit bag stick. If you have a legion that throws all of their pilum, that's 10,000 of them. And if they didn't bend out of shape, the enemy could simply throw them back. But after the battle, the Romans pick them up, separate the iron here from the wood. They heat them up, hammer them straight, put them back in, recycle them, fix the helmets, fix the armor. But the Roman soldiers did it themselves, like they built the bridges, like they built the roads. The Roman soldiers, quite something. Now we're getting down to the part where you can ask me questions. If you want to look at anything else, no problems at all. But before we go, I've been to Rome. And one of the biggest buildings left in Rome from the ancient days is the Colosseum, the big amphitheater there where they used to fight the battles, recreate Roman victories so people, the citizens, can see what's happening in the empire. But when the Colosseum opened, they had a fantastic day lined up, but it went wrong at the beginning. It kind of failed, but people were there to see 2 particular men fight, gladiators. And this gladiator fight is one of the few things we know about real live gladiator fights. 2 gladiators, Priscus and Varus. I can never remember which one was which, but one of them used to be a soldier. He was captured in what we call Romania. It was Dacia in those days. The other one, I think, was from Gaul, modern day France, and a farmer. But they were big, strong men. They were put into gladiator school and trained to be these fighters for entertainment. Now, very few gladiators were actually killed because they were worth so much money. But these 2 gladiators had won all of their fights in the heats, just like as in hockey or as in football. You win a game, you go up next. You win a game, you go up next. And that's exactly what happened with Varus and Priscus. They kept winning and they were becoming closer and closer to the final, which was going to be on the inaugural, the opening games of the Colosseum. The problem was, and the people knew this, is Varus and Priscus were friends. Not just comrades, but friends. And over 50,000 people are going to cram into the Colosseum to watch 2 friends fight. And this time, it should be to the death. Well, they fought, all right. And they fought on and on. Cut, grazed, bruised, on and on, until in the end, it was down simply to a gladius fight. Sword on sword, clang, slash. The audience were calling to Caesar to stop the fight. It's been going on too long. These 2 men are evenly matched. In one version of the story, one of the men falls to the ground. He slips in the blood and the sweat, and his friend is on him. But then his friend looks him in the eyes. He can't kill him. So he offers him his hand, and he lifts him up. And they look around, and they hold each other's hands up, and they called it a draw. And Caesar, the emperor himself, agrees. None of this thumbs up, thumbs down. But Caesar did something that's quite special now. He gave each of these gladiators the wreath, the olive wreath, colored gold as the victors, both of them. And then he gave them a wooden gladius. And in the end of the gladius, there is a little gold plaque, a badge. And on it, 4 letters, SPQR. Senatus Populus Q Romanus, for the government and people of Rome. It was their freedom. No longer are they slaves. Right, now I'm going to hand you back. So thank you very much for your time. But let's have some questions. Let's enjoy this session. All right?
That was fantastic, Kevin. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is very interesting. So we do have a few questions already. So I'll just fire them off at you. So starting with Stanley. Stanley wants to know, did they brush their teeth?
They had, you know, it's very interesting because I once asked a question of a friend of mine who lived up in the mountains of the Himalayas, and his teeth were always brilliantly clean. And I asked him how, and they used to chew hazel twigs and clean their teeth, yeah, with these hazel twigs, and still do. But we do know the Romans cleaned their teeth, and they had dentistry because in existence is a set of Roman false teeth.
Wow. That's very interesting indeed.
Yeah. In some of the films, you see the Roman soldiers looking, you know, unshaven and rotting teeth and all that. Actually, no, because they had to be fit. They had to be strong. And if you've got rotting teeth, you're not fit and strong.
It makes sense. You had to be healthy to fight those kinds of battles, right?
For sure.
All right. Another question. Tatiana asks, who could become a Roman legionary?
Well, to become a legionary, the basic rank, the basic soldier, you had to be a Roman citizen. If you were not a citizen, you could still fight, but you were an auxiliary soldier who was not as well trained, not as well paid, but he was lighter and faster. The actual Roman legionary, you had to be a Roman citizen. And if you wanted to join, you got to come and see me, and I will come to your house. You can feed me. You can give me presents if you want to. And if I think you're any good, I will recommend you. But then you got to pass the medical. Good teeth, good eyes. Can you read? Can you write? Can you swim? We want people who can cut down trees, foresters, people who work in the quarries. That's the kind of person we want in the army.
Well, that makes sense. Absolutely. Oh, here's another question from Stanley. If the weather was cold, would they wear other layers like fur, or did they always wear the red cloth in the armor that you're wearing right now?
Gosh, what a great question. They had overclothes, and some of their overclothes were actually made of waxed leather. So they had these waxed leather trousers and a complete tunic of waxed leather, plus heavy cloaks. Now, up on Hadrian's Wall, which I know that Stanley knows of, right up in the northern parts of England, a carving was found, carved by an on-duty soldier who was bored. And it's 3 Roman soldiers stood together with hands in pockets and hoods. And the coat they're wearing is a duffel coat. A duffel coat, a hooded, heavy coat with pockets to keep you warm in the weather. So yes, they could add clothes, take clothes off.
Interesting. So they had quite the wardrobe they could choose from depending on where they were. That's very interesting.
You look at Roman soldiers, you know, if we look in the films, they're always marching around in their sandals and things. They were their bodies, it was the human frame.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how tough you are, but the elements will wear you down and the elements will kill you. And you've got to have the right equipment. Look at us here out in Canada. We've got the right equipment to survive. It's 20 below just outside. Yeah, I'm going to take the dog for a walk this afternoon. Even he has boots and coats. Same in history. It gets cold, you put the extra clothes on. The difference with them to us is if it's raining, don't go out.
Interesting. Interesting. So they had to battle not only other armies, but the elements as well.
Oh, for sure.
Here's a question from Sarah. She wants to know, when Romans were done, when legionaries were done with their service, done fighting in the army, what did they do? What did they do when they retired?
It's interesting because they were given land, and the land and a pension, and they were expected to become farmers. Yeah. When there was a revolt in England, 60 years AD, I think it was, with Boudicca, she attacked a town, Camalodunum. It's called Colchester now, and she killed everybody in the town, her and her men. It was a terrible revolt, but I don't blame them because the Romans were quite cruel to her. But most of the men that were in the town were retired Roman soldiers, and it's where we get the word veteran from. Right? So I am a military veteran. The Romans had their veterans, but these veterans were so tough, and they were very mean to people who hadn't been in the legions. Yeah, and they paid for that one with their life. But also there was a danger that your veterans could go and fight for somebody else. So you want to settle them down, because in Romania, the Dacians had Roman soldiers on their side. Veterans, watch out for them.
Very interesting indeed. Very interesting indeed. Now, I had a question myself, Kevin. So that funny comb you were wearing on your head earlier, I know that Romans would also sometimes wear things like feathers on their helmets. Why would they do this sort of thing?
It's to differentiate the different personalities, because if you are a centurion, you've got a second in command. A centurion is command of 80 men. A Roman century is 80, not 100. And if your second in command is called the optio, and you might have 10 or 12 optios floating around. And if you have your optios with a crest going front and back, that's fine. But if one's got a white feather and one's got a green feather, that's two you can tell the difference. Yeah. So it's identification, which you
right.
do. Yeah.
So status. Okay, so then that leads me to my next question, Kevin. Who led a Roman legion?
Your legate. Yeah. He was sent as a member of the Senate, a member of Parliament, not necessarily a trained soldier. And underneath him, he will have top centurions, the primus. He most important because he will guide. Some of them were gifted, some of them were rubbish. But hey,
of course. Well, we have another question from Stanley, but before that, Olivia and Kiera want to know, where did you learn all of this?
Do you know, when I was a soldier in Germany, a long time ago, over 40 years ago, and I became fascinated by the history that was all around me. And even as a little child in England, I live near a castle, and I just become fascinated. So when I stopped wearing a uniform, I just began to study, and then I worked in castles and Roman ruins and places, and did this for a living. I was even Robin Hood at Sherwood Forest. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, there's lots of opportunities to do history, right? So everybody watching know that there's all sorts of education out there from people like Kevin. We'll take one more question. This is from Stanley. He wanted to know, did they have archers and cavalry in the Roman legion?
The cavalry were the slightly upper class because they could ride a horse well. And yes, they could shoot bows from their horses. But very often, the Romans hired their archers in. So you could find, you might be fighting in Gaul in France, but your archers might come from an Arab country where they had faster horses and they had the faster bows. But the Roman army didn't like to rely on the cavalry. They didn't like to rely on archers. They relied on the core, the 5,000 legionaries, because they are the ones who are going to go in and they're going to take the victory home.
Incredible. That's just amazing. Well, that's the time we have for you today, Kevin. I hope everybody enjoyed that. That was amazing. I know I learned quite a bit. So thank you so much, Kevin. If you have anything else to say, or unless you have anything else to say, we'll hand it back to William, and he can take our guests through the craft.
Right, I shall go, because one thing the Romans didn't have, and I'm going to get one in a minute, is a cup of tea. How on earth did the Romans survive without a cup of tea? So, bye for now.
Thanks so much, Kevin.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. That was a wonderful presentation. Everyone had fantastic questions, and I know I learned a lot. So let's all get to work on impressing our Centurion, shall we? We're gonna make some good legionaries out of all you, but if we do a good job, he might let us join up. Now, see if I can do this well. There we go. So now that you guys have your toilet paper tubes and your armor all colored in, please take a pair of safety scissors and cut out your legionaries' armor and weapons. So I'm going to do this with you guys. And take a look at what I'm doing. We're going to take our armor segments, and we're just going to run these scissors along. We're going to take our time here, being nice and safe. And we're just going to cut out all of these pieces. When I cut these out, I like to sort of do them in chunks first, like this. Cut my sword and my shield and my dagger out in one section, like that. Put that off to the side there. We're just going to run the scissors down like so. And just very carefully, we're going to cut out each of these little pieces, just like that. I like to leave a little bit around the edge because these swords are pretty narrow. I don't want them to get too damaged if I make a mistake. It's okay if you make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. What's important is that we just keep on working. There we go. Well, almost cut my sword in half. We're just gonna run along there. Now remember, this sword is called a Gladius. And then we're going to take our shield here. We're going to cut that out too, our scutum that Kevin was talking about. Now, something I find funny about this is that the scutum is made of paper for our little craft, and it's made of wood in Kevin's shield. And paper is basically just very small pieces of wood. So they're not that different. All right, we're going to take the dagger. I want to cut out the dagger this time. So we're going to cut it out just like the sword, taking our time. We're going to just go around the edges, following the lines that we colored in beforehand. We're just going to run along like that, cut out that piece, and then go down the other side. Just going to take our time with it. There's no need to rush. Go nice and slow. Just going to keep on cutting away. Snip. Right there. And there we have our dagger. Now this is the harder part. We're going to take the helmet pieces and we're going to cut that off. And we're going to cut out these sections. And these parts we are then going to be gluing or taping or otherwise attaching onto that egg carton helmet that you guys had colored in earlier. So we're just going to go around here. I'm going to cut out the visor first because that's my favorite part. I love the little sweeping lines that are on this visor. And we're just going to cut that just like that. Put that down. And then we're going to do these pieces of protection on the side of the face. So very important. Make sure it protects your cheeks. Cheeks are very important to have protected. Make sure your teeth stay in the right place. So if someone hits you when you're wearing a helmet, it doesn't knock your teeth all around, as we don't want to have to go to the dentist any more than we already do. And I'm just going to cut off what's called a comb. That's that fancy red on Kevin's helmet horsehair section with the feathers and all that he was talking about with our centurions and the legionaries and all the other officers had. And just cut that out nice and carefully. There we go. And I'm going to do the next part of the cheek here. Once again, just taking my time, cutting along here, following those lines. There we go. Going around the corner, slowing down around the corner, just like if I was driving a car. And finally, we're going to cut out the belt. The belt's a lot of fun to cut. You just follow the dark line all around the outside edge. And for me, I'm not going to cut all the way up the belt. You could cut all the way up it, make each of these sections separate, but for me, I'm just going to cut away the white part there. We're just going to snip that, make it all nice and pointy. Kind of looks like an upside down fence. That's all right. There we go. We're going to go around the outside edge again, just following the lines. And there we have it. All right, so now we've cut out all of our pieces here. Let me just show those all to you. And first, we are going to attach the skirt. So I have a little bit of white glue and a paintbrush, just like so. And I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take my skirt, and on the back here, I'm just going to spread a little bit of white glue. Don't have to put a whole lot on. It'll stick on pretty well, even if you don't have a whole bunch. But we're just going to stick it there. Then we're going to take our toilet paper tube, and right where the yellow and the red parts meet, we're just going to stick that belt right on there. Nice and gentle, and it should stick. If it doesn't stick on, if you're using tape, it should be fine. If you're using white glue or a glue stick, you can just add a little bit more. There's a little bit of mine that's popping off there, so we're just going to add a little bit more white glue in there. We're just going to stick that on. Now, our next step is going to be placing all the other pieces. So our next section is going to be his gladius and his dagger. My legionary isn't going to be holding his gladius out for a fight. He's just going to have it by his side. So we're going to put a little bit of glue on the back of the gladius, and then just like Kevin's, it's going to be going on his right-hand side, just like that. So it's sitting out of the way, and I'm going to take a bit more glue and put on the back of the dagger here. Oh, got a little bit on my fingers, that's okay. And I'm going to put his dagger on his other side. I'm just going to stick it right there on his left. Everyone following along? If I'm going too quickly, just let me know in the chat. I don't see anybody who says we're going too quickly, so I'm going to keep on going. If I do go too fast, just let me know in the chat and I'll slow down for you. Now, we have our two swords here. One I'm using like a dagger. And the next part we're going to do is we're going to give him his shield. Very important, just like Kevin said. This part uses up, oh, hello, got a little friend stuck to my paintbrush. That's okay. We'll take a little bit of glue, and we're just going to stick it on the back of our shield, just like that. Just going to make sure we have enough glue on there that's going to be nice and sticky. Not totally soaked. We're not trying to make papier-mâché. We're just going to stick the shield right on his side. Right hand, left hand, it doesn't really matter as long as the shield's right on there. Just making sure our Roman stays nice and protected. You can put these anywhere you want. Your Roman might be holding his shield in a different position. I'm just making mine kind of standard. Not too exciting, but it will be okay. Next, after we do the shield, we are going to be taking his other side here. We're going to put the Roman to the side, and we're going to be taking off our helmet. You guys are colored. I colored mine in yellow, kind of a brownish golden yellow color. And I'm going to be attaching all these various pieces onto it. So the first part we're going to do is make sure that the helmet is protected, because the helmet keeps you from hurting your head. So we're going to make some decorations on here, nice and fancy. So we're going to actually start with the cheek protection. You can see here. Just going to add a little bit of glue onto that, and we're going to stick it right there, just on the side. It should stick on pretty quickly. Might have to hold it for a little bit until the glue has a chance to set in. If you're using tape or something else, it should be nice and quick. Now, if you want to, you could also just put your glue right onto the side of your helmet and then stick the paper onto it like that. There's really no wrong way to do it. However you want to make it work, whatever works best for you, you just do it that way. So now we have these two long pieces connected on the right and left of the helmet, and we're going to add this triangular visor. For this one, I find that I have the best luck when I add the glue right onto the helmet, but I'm not telling you you have to do that. That's just what works best for me. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue, put a little bit over there on the sides. This visor is pretty long. And then I'm going to just put the visor right in the middle, and I'm going to glue it around, just like that. Whoop! Bounced off. I said, sometimes I make mistakes. That's okay. We're going to add a little more glue right onto the visor itself. Maybe I put too much paint on my helmet. That's all right, though. Then we're going to try gluing this on again. Stick it there. And we're going to hold it on just a couple of seconds till the glue has a chance to dry. And then there we go. So, now that these are all connected, just make sure your legionary's face is protected on all sides. And we're going to finally add that horsehair comb onto the legionary's helmet. This part you can kind of stick on the top of your helmet. Because of how I put my my visor in the front, I'm going to actually fold over this little bit on here, just where that line is on the comb. Then I'm going to take a little bit of glue. I'm just going to put it on the bottom. Just like that. And that way, I'm going to take my helmet, I can stick it right on top. Just like so. And then my horsehair comb will stand up nice and straight. So I just stuck it on the top there. And that way, the legionaries and everyone else will be able to see where my little soldier is. He won't get lost on the battlefield. Now, our final little step here is we're going to glue his helmet right on the top of his head. So we're going to take some more glue or tape or whatever you're using. We're going to take it, we're going to put it on the inside of the helmet. Make sure you use a lot of glue for this. You can't really use too much glue for this part because your egg carton is going to soak up a lot of that glue. So just kind of add it in there until you feel like you've added enough. Shouldn't be soaking wet with glue, but it shouldn't be super dry either. There we go. And then we're going to take our legionary and we're going to just pop his helmet. Whoops. My guy's tired, it seems. We're just going to pop his helmet right on top, just like that. And all the parts that you've put glue on should stick right on there. Now, we've attached his helmet. We're going to add a face. For me, I'm going to use a marker. I'm not super good with a paintbrush, but we're going to see what we can do. For mine, I'm going to give him a couple of nice happy eyes. One of them's behind his helmet. That's okay. And we're going to give him a nice, big smile. Because who knows, maybe he's having a good day. It's always nice to have a good day. Sometimes it's hard to have good days, but that's all right. Today can be a good day for us. If you're not having a good day, that's all right too. Sometimes we're down, but we can always get up again, take the time you need, and end up smiling in the end. I think this guy's just happy he has such nice armor. Just like all of your guys' soldiers, their armor is going to be very nice. And we're going to take him, and we're going to put him alongside a couple of his buddies. This one's less happy. And we have the start of a little Roman army. And you guys can make as many of these as you want to if you have the materials for them. So there we go. Now then, we're all finished working on our legionaries, so make sure to please send some pictures of your own Roman legionaries to the Museum of Antiquities social media accounts so that we can show our Centurion Kevin Hicks what a fantastic job you guys all did. Remember, if you want to make any more legionaries, all of the crafts and the instructions can be found on our WordPress blog. So before we go, are there any last questions for any of us? Please just add them in to the comments section in the chat. And thank you all for joining us. I'd like to say a big thank you to Kevin for coming by to speak to us. And please make sure to join us next month for another Crafternoon where we're going to learn all about life in a medieval castle, just like the one Kevin grew up next to when he was a kid. Thank you.